Hola guys and girls, and welcome to a new Keyforge video of mine. It is once again a new type of video because this time it's like kind of a stats, analytic, spoiler kind of video, because what me interested the most when Mass Mutations and the whole enhanced mechanic was announced is how is exactly it's going to be that implemented, like how many cards are going to be enhanced, which symbols are going to see the most, and what can we expect basically. And now that we have the 4 English decks which are released from Fantasy Flight Games and the additional 5 Polish decks which got released from their side, linked to all of them in the description, we have now 9 decks in total from Mass Mutations, where I decided to look at the enhanced distribution in all of these decks and kind of to try and get a feel what we can expect from Mass Mutation in general, to kind of like get a like how many enhance are going to be an average in a deck and all this good stuff. So yeah, I just basically very simply did go through all of the decks and counted all the enhanced symbols in each of the decks. You can see the stats here on screen. They're not too interesting since it's only deck related, but yeah, I will show them here so you can pause the video and look at them yourself. The more interesting part is now to evaluate all this stuff and yeah, to get an idea what the difference in the houses are, difference in the type of symbols and all this good stuff. That's why I'm gonna switch now to the next slide and talk about the, just in total, what the distribution of these Aember symbols are. So we have a total of 9 decks, and just counting the amount, first of all, we do have Aember symbols in these 9 decks, a combination of a total of 7 capture symbols, 23, 20 damage symbols, and 15 draw symbols. So we already see a pretty distribution as you would expect it. They already told us that the Aember one was the least likely. That's like 10% of the, around 10% of the symbols, more 11% to be fair, but I guess 10% is like the even number they may be shooting for of these symbols, enhanced symbols on cards is the Aember symbol. Then 20%, so around double that amount, are draw symbols. And then the 2 more likely ones are the capture and damage icons, which are respectively at 35 and 30%. Like I said, these like quote unquote for only 9 decks, but it's a good estimate on what it's gonna be. I think this ratio will be the same, so that capture and damage is the same amount. Then draw is around half, maybe 2/3 of that, and then Aember generation is like 1/3 of that, something like that. I think that's the distribution we can expect in general from the enhancement symbols. And yeah, good to know as well is the average symbol in each deck. Of course, I mean, the average for each Aember icon depends a lot on the houses. I do have some house analysis after this as well. So obviously not every extra icon is the same distribution in each house. So it depends a lot on the houses which you are actually going to see. Like if you have going to have more Aember symbols, more capture symbols, more damage symbols, all this good stuff. But what number I like to look at is the 7.22, the average of enhancement symbols you are going to find in the deck. Because I think that's an important number. Of course, that might still change when we get more decks and stuff like that. Currently, with these 9 decks we have, it is 7.22. And that's like, I like to get an average there, because that's then good to look at if you have a deck. Usually you want, I mean, you do want the most enhancement symbol as possible, because they all make your deck better. Problem, of course, is that the enhancement symbol cards are not always great cards, because sometimes you just get a card which gives you 3 damage icons, but the same card itself which gives you these icons is not that great, so the payoff is not that high. So still, getting the average amount which you can expect in the deck, so it seems to be around 7, maybe 6, 8. Of course, it depends a little bit on cards. We do have one card in the deck, which I'm going to talk later about, which is a story one, which gives you 2 of each barring capture, which kind of makes the statistic a very high roll for Sorin at least. I don't know if the similar cards exist for other houses as well. We don't know that yet. I would like to think yes, because otherwise Thorin does have, just from a bonus symbol standpoint, a big advantage. But yeah, 7.22 seems to be, or 7 to make it even, because obviously there are no parts of bonus symbols on cards printed. You're not going to find half a bonus Aember on the card. So let's go with 7 here. It seems to be the average, at least for these 9 decks, and I think it's a decent number. If you can like pull a deck and average, you're gonna find 7 symbols on that. The minimum amount of bonus symbols we had in the deck was actually 4, and the maximum amount we found in the deck was 13. So there is some high and low rolling involved. The 7 isn't average, but you could get double the amount in the deck, but you could get half the amount only in the deck. So there is some big variance going on there. But yeah, it should give us a good idea what to expect from future decks in this set in general. But yeah, this is like the, now looking at all these symbols, now going into individual house analysis. And just going alphabetical order, I'm gonna start with this. This, we had 4 decks which showed this cards. Basically, we had four this decks. In the 9 decks we have seen. And as you can see, our distribution here, all of them we see so far are capture and damage icon. Most of them are the damage icons, which I think we can definitely, I think that's a fair representation of what we can see from this, that most of the icons are going to be damaged, some of them are going to get capture. I don't think some of them will have bonus Aember, draw maybe, but as we can see in total we had 7 bonus symbols on discards, which averages at 1.75 in in a deck which this. So if you have this in a deck, the average bonus symbols on these discards, or which not necessarily are on these discards, but the discards are going to distribute in your deck, is 1.75, so around 2, and most of them are going to be damage, which I think is most likely what's going to happen. I don't think like this never had the flair of like generating lots of Aember or drawing your cards. I think capturing and damage dealing is definitely more the flavor of this, so I think that's a good representation of what we can see. And yeah, moving on to logos, there we had 3 decks in total, which had logos in them, and as we can see, we got mainly damage, or only damage and draw icons there, with the same amount actually. 4 in total, so a less average than this actually, but that, like I said, these are only small differences, and we only have like now these, like all these house analysis thing are not as representative, of course, as the general, which we had before, because we only have like 3 to 5 decks with these houses, so we need some more information because to be more representative of the general house thing. But yeah, of course, logos having lots of draw symbols, that was to be expected. Damage, not that much to be fair, but there are some cards which deal damage in logos, so that makes sense. Like I said, capture and Aember generation was never really the flavor of logos, so I think there's like a fair distribution. I would like to think that logos gets more draw symbols than damage symbols. But yeah, this is where we are at the moment, only 1.33 in average, so I think from all the houses, this is the lowest number actually of bonus icons. I don't know, I like to think that I distribute them evenly, like every house can have the same amount of bonus icons. They might do something different there, like because Aember and draw are like better ones and rarer ones, that they gave the houses which have a lot of draw symbols, like less in total, since they got quote-unquote the better bonus icons. So that might happen, that's why maybe logos is on the lower side, because they have like more draw icons potentially on their cards. But yeah, that's logos for you. Now going on to the next one, which is Sanctum, which we have the most decks of. We have 5 decks with Sanctum in there, so we do have the best representation there from all the decks. And as expected, of course, capture is going to be the highest number there. We have 10 total capture symbols from 12 in total, which is pretty insane. And 2 damage icons there, and like a bonus Aember and draw. That's to be expected from Sanctum. I don't know if like that will be the distribution we'll see later on with 10 capture and 2 damage, but definitely most of the capture icons being a Sanctum definitely makes sense. We have a total of 2.4 in average in Sanctum, a total of 12 in these 5 decks, which actually is the third lowest, to be fair. Like all the other 3 houses we can see later on do have a higher average, but that might be just because we have a smaller amount of decks in there, and the decks we got actually do have a more than average amount of extra symbols on them. So yeah, that's Sanctum, like I said, makes sense. They have the most capture. I'm not really surprised there. Yeah, a little bit of damage makes sense, especially since Sanctum is going to be fightier and more aggressive in Mass Mutation that I already mentioned, so having some damage there on them to deal like 2 mutant cards or something like that makes for sure sense there. Now going on to Saurian, that's where we have 4 decks in total, and this is what do we call it? That's why they have this problem with the 1 card which we saw in Saurian. It has the highest average with 14 in total in only 4 decks, so 3.5 bonus symbols in Saurian, through Saurian, better said. Is mainly due to the card which gives you 2 draw icons, 2 bonus Aember icons, and 2 damage icons. You can replace them with capture icons. Like that artifact there is pretty screws the statistic for Saurian. Without that card, we would have like a standard card which gives you maybe like 2 or 1 icons instead of 6 in total. We would look at a similar distribution as in Sanctum, a little bit less even than Sanctum, since it's less decks with around the same amount of symbols. So yeah, this skews kind of the statistic for Saurian though, but I hope that we have like similar cards in the other houses. We do have similar cards in Star Alliance later on, but not as good, of course. But still, I hope like these, and because there's a card in Saurian is a strong house already, and I hope they bring out similar cards in the other houses as well. Like maybe, like, I don't know, like the exact thing would be difficult because you can't just do getting 6 symbols for Logos, for example. You can replace it with a draw effect because that, of course, will be way stronger than capturing for Saurian. Even though capturing for Saurian is nice. But yeah, just for enhancement, this card definitely puts Saurian in a big advantage in the other houses, just by getting lots of them, which usually or always is a good thing. And yeah, that's Saurian for you. Like I said, get the most symbols from all. They have the highest capture amount, which makes sense as well. It's less than Sanctum, but capture and damage is definitely the most represented there. The 2 Aember and 2 draw, like I said, only come from this one artifact. So I think we will see mostly capture, like a similar distribution as Sanctum, I would say. Maybe a little bit more even, less capture, a little bit more damage there, but yeah, Saurian and Sanctum are always very similar houses. One captures, one exalts. So yeah, I see them definitely having a similar distribution as Sanctum. But now going to the Shadows house, there we have 4 decks in total, 10 extra symbols in total, and most of them are actually damage. In Shadows, I would actually thought that maybe capturing is higher there as well, since Shadows is always the house with the best Aember control. But actually in the house we had represented here, damage was the big thing. This is the house with the most damage icons, with 7 in total and 3 capture icons. I would see, like, bonus Aember makes in Shadows maybe sense, draw a little bit as well. For Shadows, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more even distribution between all 4 of them. But seeing it this high in favor of damage is definitely a little bit of a surprise for me. Only 2.5 in average in total, which puts them at 3rd place, tied with Star Alliance later on. So yeah, just like I said, I'm surprised that damage is that high. Like, it does make sense. Shadows has a lot of these little damage thingies, like be it Nerf Blast or like these little trap flavor artifacts which like explode and do damage to everything and stuff like that. So I can see why damage is there, but I wouldn't have expected to be that high of difference, which, like I said, could just be because of the decks we got, to be fair. But yeah, that's Shadows for you. Now looking at Star Alliance, the second to last one with a 2.5 average as well. 4 decks represented, the same as Shadows and the same amount of extra symbols. But holy hell, how many draw symbols can you put into one house? It's 7 draw symbols in Star Alliance. The 1 in Aember, the 1 in Capture, the 1 in Damage are only there because of 1 card. Star Alliance has 1 creature which has 1 bonus, or which enhances 1 bonus icon of each symbol into the deck. So basically without that card, the distribution would be 0, 0, 0, 6. So Star Alliance is definitely the strong draw house, outpacing Logos by a shit ton, at least in these 9 decks, which I think, like, it makes sense. Star Alliance and Logos are the cards which draw the most, but I'm still surprised that Star Alliance is that much ahead, at least in the decks we see right here, just through draw symbols. I'm very surprised by that. I would think that Logos would be ahead of Star Alliance. Star Alliance would be like the second house with the most draw symbols. But yeah, seeing just like that, even without the card, which kind of like makes the whole statistic a bit murky, since it's it's a card which gives a lot of extra symbols, it would be 006, and that is like a pretty hefty amount of draw symbols you can get in a house. So I'm looking forward to getting Star Alliance in my Mass Mutations deck and getting all these draw symbols on my cards and just getting them through my deck in an insane pace. But yeah, that's Star Alliance for you. Now going on to the last, which actually is the second place with most Aember symbols, which is Untamed, and it is the only house which has a good amount of Aember symbols. Like I said, the only other house which had, or the only other 2 houses which had extra Aember symbols on them are Saurian and Star Alliance, and that is due to the cards which gives you 1 from each, basically. The 1 artifact and the 1 creature. So it's not like really that they had a card which just gives singular bonus Aember icon on them. It's mainly due to just having all of them there. So yeah, that's of course no surprise. Untamed is the Aember Rush house in Keyforge. So I would expect them of course to having most of them. I did not expect all the other houses having so little of them, because everyone has like a little Aember Rush going on, like maybe with some bonus icons and some cards which can gain Aember at a burst speed, be it through card in the archives, damage on the field, I don't know, stuff like that. But yeah, Untamed has definitely the most, and surprisingly they do have 4 draw icons as well, which I definitely did not see coming. Untamed was never the house for me which draws a lot of cards, but yeah, with only 3 decks represented, to be fair, it is of course, I don't think Aember icons and draw icons will be the same amount in Untamed. I for sure think that Aember will be ahead there. But yeah, capturing and damage makes sense. Untamed is never, like, especially in Worlds Collide, they more got like kind of the peace healing shenanigans instead of dealing damage. So I could see them not having any damage symbols and very little, if not any, capture symbols, and only going for Aember and draw. But yeah, they're actually second place with 2.67 in average in an Untamed deck, which might be due to them only being represented in 3 decks, to be fair. But yeah, still double the amount of the logos, which only have 1.33 representation, with the same amount of decks, to be fair. So yeah, but that concludes the analysis video for this so far. Like I said, this was a topic once I heard that enhancement was a thing in mass mutations. This, like, seeing how they distribute stuff like that was what I was very interested in, and now that we had 9 decks, I thought it's nice to make a video like this. But yeah, that's all for this video. If you did enjoy, of course, leave a like, comment, subscribe, you know the deal. Hit me on Twitter and Facebook, all the links are in the description, and yeah, I will see you another time. Ciao.